North Carolina's legislation on House Bill 280. Stakeholders in this proposed legislation, or the primary sponsors, are Representatives Chuck McGrady, David Lewis, Dwayne Hall, and Susan Martin. Changing the age in which teenagers can be tried as an adult from the age of 16 or 17 to 18 for lesser felonies and misdemeanor crimes. Currently, 16 to 17-year-old teenagers can be tried as adults for some minor offenses, which has the potential to damage their future. With the exception of 2 states, North Carolina being one of the 2, New York being the other, the majority of states in our country see 18 as the legal age of adulthood. Lawmakers, criminal justice officials, and state representatives are pushing to get this law changed for the betterment of those that are currently being railroaded by a law that has been in place for decades. The problem with the current law, which goes back as far as 1919, is that it does not help the growing problem of teenage crime. Instead, it has in some way ensured that the problem will continue to grow and ensuring that more non-adult, those under the age of 18, will most likely become repeat offenders. One major example of this is the issue of growing concerns of gangs in the state of North Carolina. When you consider the number of individuals who become gang members do so when they're in prison, this becomes a breeding ground for gang members to recruit younger members. The idea that being charged as an adult might deter other teenagers from committing a crime has not been much of a deterrent at all. One big benefit would be the reduction in recidivism. Data shows that thousands of teenagers have been entered into North Carolina's prison system over the past 20 years, costing the state money and increasing the chance that they will offend again. This new legislation will reduce the number of teenagers with criminal records and thus allowing them to get better jobs and or pursue secondary education, which is not an option with a criminal record. As stated previously, there would be a drop in the number of teenagers joining gangs because most join them when they're in prison. It will keep teens who are in the wrong place at the wrong time from being labeled as felons and criminals, thus giving them a chance to make something better of a bad situation. The policy being proposed in the legislation will be effective because it has been proven in other states. This policy will ensure that adolescents, youth, are not being thrust into an adult environment without access to the rights to any adult rule and or laws to protect them. This policy that is being put before legislation would also be effective as well as feasible. When the data from other states is considered, it is hard not to see that this policy would make a difference in the lives of so many youth. It would also reduce the number of adult criminal cases, thus saving money in that aspect. Children processed through the adult criminal system are more than twice as likely to reoffend than those served by the juvenile system. Simply put, forcing children into the adult criminal system makes it far more likely for them to become adult criminals. As a social worker, I would support this legislation as well as amend it so that it takes into consideration first-time offenders who are 18 years of age. Not every criminal offense committed by teenagers should be grounds for being tried as an adult if the youth is under the age of 18. However, The same could be said for criminal offenses that are committed by youth that are 18 years of age. Social workers are also advocates to change policies that are causing more harm than they are for the good. Every teenager grows and develops differently, both physical and mental, regardless if they have a serious physical or mental condition or not. For those teens that have not been identified as having a physical or mental disability, there are still many areas that they are not mentally ready to take on. Being thrust into adulthood, even if you are a great teenager and a law-abiding citizen, is not an easy task, and a good number of teenagers fail this test and end up back home with their parents. There's a significant amount of mental development that has to take place before they are ready to take on adulthood.